with every update.
Well, we could just ask Steve Isaacs.
Look,
the stream started. Stream started. Hey, look at that.
Snuck it in here.
I did. We always sneak it in. Remember, this is the banter that gets us going beforehand. And then,
before we drop the numbers.
Yeah, before we drop the numbers, right? And Danielle is furiously shoving, whatever.
Cookies.
Not furious at all.
Your eyelashes are on point tonight, though. Let me tell you this. They are just.
I will compliment my lash person for you. What? She did a phenomenal job.
I'm like, bam. They're like, whoop, like, look at me.
That's exactly what they're like. Little flags. They're like, hey.
Yeah. So I had to reschedule my appointment, and so I didn't go to the person I'd been going to, and it was someone else, and she does so good.
Well, with that, we can probably do the countdown because
now we're going to go to the numbers. We talked about eyelashes.
Eyelashes.
We're good.
Yes.
But I don't care if they lay me off either because I told Bill that if
Office Space.
Yeah, and I'm quitting. I'm going to quit.
This is how our show sometimes starts.
4 times already this year.
It's funny to see that
squirrels and they were married, but then they switched from the swing line to the Boston stapler. But I kept my swing line stapler because it didn't bind
because
up
this movie is still
I
so
kept the
relevant.
staple
It's
for
still
the swing
so
line stapler.
perfect.
It's still a good yes. It's yes. Office work hasn't changed very much.
No.
And here's something else, Bob. I have 8 different bosses right now.
Beg your pardon?
8 bosses. 8, Bob.
See,
So
and
that means that when I
that's
make
working
a
in
mistake,
education.
I have 8 different people coming by to tell me about it.
I am
my
happy
only real
again that we are
motivation
doing
is
this
not
tonight.
to be hassled.
It's still
That's the fear of
going.
losing my job, but Bob, that'll only make someone work just hard enough not to get fired.
Yeah. Well, welcome in everybody to this ridiculousness. It is Thursday night. It is your Black Friday Eve. It is, really, do people still do that?
Oh my gosh, yes. I have never been into it, but I have known many people that finish dinner and they spend about an hour to 2 hours going through all the pamphlets and flyers that they've collected over the course of the week. And then at around 11:30, they get into cars and they start their shopping at midnight when all the stores would open. I don't think it's going to be a big thing this year because obviously COVID.
Right. We would hope so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that a lot of the stores aren't opening. I know many can't, because you're not allowed to be shopping inside unless you're, an essential service. But yeah, no, I know a ton of people that's what they do. Never. I went out on a Black Friday once. Alistair and I went out together, I think when he was like 5 or 6, and we went, by the time we left the one spot we went to, I looked at him and we never, ever again. Will that ever happen? Ever.
Well, I worked.
So you said something about not allowed to shop inside. That must be a California thing because there's no such restriction in Texas.
And it depends. Here it depends on your county, and they're still transitioning because most of California's purple now. So we're all at the
That doesn't sound good at all.
It's not good. It's not good. So our rate's really high. So they closed down like gyms and movie theaters. You can't eat inside restaurants. You're like the amount of services that you're allowed to be inside a building for is pretty much, I think it's supposed to be cut back down to like essential services. So like you could go to the hardware store, but I don't think you can go to like a boutique and do shopping. But you know, places like, see, and I don't know, because like when everything first happened, Target was all roped off. So the only thing you could purchase in Target was like food, and everything else you couldn't access, which annoyed a lot of people because I had a lot of friends that had babies and like you couldn't get to any of the childcare stuff because it was considered not essential. But you could get food.
I used to work at Best Buy, and I worked 3 Black Fridays early. Nope.
That is the place that we went, and that was like never, ever, ever again will I leave my house the day after Thanksgiving.
Well, and I do have to also say hello to my son who is in chat, and he just is throwing some comments out there. So, buddy, it is good to see you. Thank you for dropping by. Tonight it is Thanksgiving, and we've, you know, there's no real serious topics to talk about tonight. Tonight's more like just getting together and just kind of, unless we all of a sudden find something that is.
It's not like there hasn't been stuff to talk about,
well,
but maybe tonight's not the night to talk about it.
Right. My name is James O'Hagan. I am the host of the Academy of Esports podcast. I am the director of digital and virtual learning for the Racine Unified School District. And all right, over here is...
I'm Carrie Linden, known as the Chalk Muju on social media. I am the communication specialist for Liminal Esports and Snowbright Studios.
And down here we have... And she's muted.
You're muted.
The seat 3-0 of Esports is muted.
Well, there's background noise. I'm Danielle. I am a middle school teacher in Dallas, and I am the executive director of the Texas Scholastic Esports Federation.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. You are now the head honcho. You are the big cheese. You are the...
She now is the C3O.
You are literally the C3O of TechSF.
Mm-hmm.
That is what did that was that just what, a couple weeks ago?
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, we didn't even get to talk about it last week. It was like it's flew under. You were so like just like, oh, you know, whatever. I'm just
I'm not like a titles person, you know. So
you don't want the lists to run. It feels weird, like when you have to go through all the. But you
right, like
I
don't know. I feel like I can Google people and get all their titles.
Yeah, so. But you know, people don't do that. I feel like we're like the only group that does that.
Like I get like for every single person that like pretty much any of y'all talk to, I'm on LinkedIn right away. I'm like, who are these people? And then I look to like what year they got their degree to just feel like if they're way younger than me or not. Like, so
I mean, I kind of left that one late.
I'm a little wary of people that are CEOs and they're 22. And
yeah, that's a little
like,
well,
that's one of those things that
wait. There's one person who has chief in her name, and I swear by this person. That is Sam Anton, Chief Operations Officer for NASEF. Swear by that girl. She's the one who I am not wary of. We shall see.
Oh yeah, no, she's a rock star.
I would have said males in their early 20s that were CEOs, but I was trying to avoid it.
It's the CEO.
But you kind of just did it for me. All the CEO bros.
Director at 28, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think
I was
it's one of those things.
Nothing.
I mean, I was a board president at like 19, so for a nonprofit,
you were way more ambitious than I was.
I'd like to bite off big chunks of things.
There was speaking of big chunks, tonight, you know, again, we're keeping the topics kind of light. Jeff Eisfeld did put a comment in from LinkedIn though about looking at an idea of putting gyms, esports, and entertainment centers together. You know, a lot of us in education with regards to our esports programs have been doing that. Again, biting off big chunks of things as we go down these roads. I think though there's definitely a group of people who we would want to have here for that conversation and talk about it broadly. Not to say the three of us couldn't carry that conversation. I'm sure we could. But you know,
it'd be good to have more voices on that one. It is interesting though, because I have like we obviously talk a lot about our concerns with esports edu and the direction that it heads in and the people that spearhead those big pushes. It's been interesting because this week I've noticed a lot of other voices popping up on Twitter and other social media platforms about concerns that people are having with seeing pushes happen in esports and seeing the people that are leading the charge and being like, ooh, this is not going to be good.
Do I need to go through your retweets for the week?
No,
because I need to know. I want to know like what you're talking about.
I'll have to see if I can find it again. I'll have to see if I can find it again.
Like, am I just going to go through all of your likes for the week?
No names were named. But it was interesting that I saw that because normally it's us that I feel like are out there going, hey, wait, take a step back. But I think that, we've talked before about the big push that's happening with COVID and a lot of people embracing esports as like not the cure all, but like, the failure proof sport, which we all know isn't the case. Like it's not COVID
there's lots
proof.
Of failure right now.
Oh yeah. But definitely like it's a lot of people are jumping onto it right now because like there was a lot of really public hoopla about it, I think, at the start of COVID, and a lot of people realized that like now's the time to move on it. So a lot of people are moving on it and realizing that the EDU sector is the one that it isn't underrepresented. That's the thing that irks me. It's not like we're not here. It's not like we're not vocal. It's not like we're not at conferences. But it's not the people that they're used to. So you're getting like these other people that are in, let's say trickling down from maybe the professional level or like, adult esport, non-education esports that are like, oh, we're going to go in here, we're going to do this thing. It's like, no, the thing's already happening.
I'm kind of with you too. And what I've started to see also is kind of a shuffling of the decks on the Titanic as it's sinking. Now, I'm not saying that that esports right now is a sinking ship or anything like that. But what I'm suggesting is that it's kind of like, there's such a, okay, I'll talk about it in baseball terms, just real briefly. You hear me for a minute because you all get that, right? But think about it. In baseball, managers come and go, but there's like a pool of them, right? And they keep pulling from the same ones, and eventually they age out, and then new ones come in. And I think what we're starting to see now is as some things consolidate, ESPN a couple of weeks ago had a huge layoff. They basically said, yeah, our esports division is done because they were making no money off of it. They had some of the top writers, so a lot of those people now are to the wind and trying to find, their spot in this world. But even again, as I worry that again, we're having a lot of shuffling of chairs, shuffling of leadership, shuffling of people, but still, even though we are the ones who are at conferences out there in front speaking, we are the ones who are doing the work with our students. We are the ones who are working directly with kids. We are advocating for kids. We are going to board meetings, picking up the pieces when things don't work, trying out the things that do, or reporting back. We're still underrepresented.
We are underrepresented.
Like our voice doesn't. It's like oh, we're still going to give it to you. It doesn't matter what.
It's because the education voice, by and large, the teacher voice isn't one that's heard, and it's not one that's taken serious. And especially in the esports community, you have esports, and like with gaming, if you boil gaming down to its core, you have the tribal wars that exist between PlayStation, Xbox, and PC.
Oh my God, stop that. Oh my God, please stop the flex. No, wait, I just want to say this. I just need to say this. Those people who keep posting pictures of their Xbox X's and PlayStation 5s, dude, there are no games for your systems. I don't care that you got one. Go ahead. Sorry. I just but my
point is like that is at the core of the gaming world. Then you have on top of that define what a gamer is. Well, if you don't play this way, you're not a gamer. If you don't play these games, you're not a gamer. If you haven't played these games, you're not a gamer. Like the gaming world is so caught up on clout. And that's the same with esports, like honestly, because you get into, well, what's really an esport title? Are you really an esport athlete? Like yada, yada, yada. And then you get down to like education. And I feel like, when we're talking about esports education, a lot of people, it clicks off because it's like, well, that's not real esports. I need to go with these guys over here because that's esports. It's like, well, yeah, but the education is a really key thing that you can't remove from it. So I think we're underrepresented because people are going for the bigger, flasher, bolder voice, which is attached to gaming, which often is really great at underrepresenting populations.
What, really?
Yeah, right? Not like there weren't multiple lovely snafus regarding that this year. So yeah, like it's definitely an issue. And I agree, like we are still underrepresented, and we're also still underattended. You can bank on an esports EDU panel not being the most packed panel at a conference. I think it's changing.
Maybe we should rebrand the education as like somehow, because we're providing their future not only like customer base, right, but also their future employees. Yeah. So like, how do we rebrand what we are doing in terms of their need? Like we can say we're educators and we know what that means, and everybody outside of education thinks they know what that means, but when it comes to like what we actually do, that's not really the case.
Yeah.
How can we change the verbiage to frame it in terms of what we are providing as a service to meet the need of the market?
That's the interesting thing in all of this is with all of this here, I know for the longest time I ignored what was going on in the pro scene. And I know I can't completely ignore what goes on in the pro scene anymore.
No, you can't.
But here's the thing. The way that our programs are developed, the way our programs are set up in schools, I don't care what comes and goes at, with League of Legends, Riot, AAA titles, whatever, because we're designed to meet our students where they are.
Yeah.
Take the interests of our students and build around that.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the pro
something else. I don't think that above us, the people that deal with mostly adults realize is the way we do it now with our students is the way it's going to be done when our students are running the show. And so I don't care how you do things, because we're changing the group of people that are going to be in charge of this one day.
Yeah, we are building working on that. I think the other thing to keep in mind too is what everybody knows currently as esports isn't how competitive gaming originated. Like, competitive gaming started as a small grassroots movement. You had, studios that were putting on small events that eventually became national events. Those national events weren't huge. They weren't, publicized the way they are now. You had communities creating competitions. Like, esports is home is in small competition. In community-driven competition. And so when people think esports and they just think, League of Legends, well, that's great, but that's not what the bulk of esports is. It's not what the bulk of esports history is. It's all these other things that have a lot more room for, diversity and inclusion. It's also like a lot of the big AAA titles we can't play. Like, you got to look at what we deal with as educators. Like, we have limitations on the games that we can play. If your game is rated, M for mature, we can't touch it. If your game is rated T for teens, a lot of those games we can't touch either. If there's a weapon in it, there's whole districts that won't let you go anywhere near it. And that completely cuts out a lot of the AAA, pro circuit. So, people need to keep in mind that we have we've got different frameworks that we're working on. The other thing that I wanted to touch on is, I know we've talked before about the esports bubble. I think we're seeing the start of a pop a little bit too. I could be wrong, but it feels like we're definitely seeing a pullback.
Well, ESPN again.
I agree.
That was a major. When ESPN said we're cutting our
because who watches esports on ESPN?
Well, that's where they had, they did the whole UCI documentary show. They did a whole documentary series. They did do the college tournaments. They did do, I think they also broadcast some of the Overwatch League, especially the finals.
Yeah. Did they have exclusive broadcast for that?
What's that?
Were their broadcasts exclusive? I can't imagine that those wouldn't be on Twitch and other things as well.
They did the Overwatch final on ABC, or it was ESPN too. It was one of the two. I think it was ABC. So it's not.
So I think a lot of it's going to go online. Like you're just going to get it.
Right. It's just not the medium. It's not meeting the consumer where they already are.
Yeah.
It's saying, hey, you should start watching it on ESPN when everybody's already watching it on Twitch.
Right.
But again, it's a lot of it too is I can make a channel, you can make a channel, we can all make a channel and rebroadcast. It's not going to be maybe the millions of viewers that they're used to on a Super Bowl or World Series or NBA, because that model is now broken in a lot of ways. Now there are exclusivities for like Overwatch, but Carrie, to go back to your grassroots point, I mean, games like Among Us and Fall Guys were around for years. Yep. And like for I make it sound like forever, but like 2 years, which is it's a long time to get critical mass acknowledgement on a game. The model's a little broken. That's why I say with education, these companies who want to come down and tell us how to do it, that model, that pro model or that collegiate model doesn't quite translate into what we're trying to do.
No, and the comment that came up of having to expand beyond shooters and sports and esports, especially if you're out there and you are, out there saying we need diversity and inclusion in esports, then you need to take a step back from the shooters and the sports related games, because you are locking out a whole pile of people if that is all you're offering. We definitely have to have diversified, runs of titles, and that doesn't necessarily it's not that it doesn't reflect competitive gaming, because it does. Like there's speed runs. Like if you want to look, if you're part of a community, you can find the competitive games. I mean, heck, Sea of Thieves has multiple different community run leagues and events that go all year round. That are
really?
Oh God, yeah. They're not
what? Pillaging?
No. So there's Race of Legends, which actually runs multi-ship races. So you've got a set course with different tasks that you have to complete at various islands. There's some combat, ship-to-ship combat, and so they go, and it's an entire season. So you sign your crew up, and you compete, and there's like a whole big championship at the end. There's fishing tournaments that happen within the game. That also are like fishing and combat. There are arena matches where it's actual ship to ship PvP that happens. So like even this open world immersion game has a very, very strong competitive community to it, with multiple different leagues and organizations that run seasons of competitive gameplay. It's I mean, I remember when Minecraft first came out and people were doing Hunger Games. Like, you don't have to look very far to see that almost every game, if you got a little ingenuity, can be competitive. And you're going to have a whole different group of people that are going to flow into that.
Tristan Wheeler has a really good point. We found, and he's a librarian in Cleveland, Ohio, watching this on Twitch. What I found is that most people in our community weren't just even aware, needless to say, comfortable playing games they've never heard or saw before. Being in an environment where people can be comfortable is really important. And that is like we talk about the invitation. Yep. What is the invitation to your experience? There's been some really good comments, I think, coming in through LinkedIn tonight as well, too, John and Jeff. Jeff, talking about, need to bring in the physical and mental health components. Again, that's the thing that schools do really, if given the opportunity and if the program is set up properly, that should be part of the school esports program, that whole experience, especially the mental health component of positive adult interaction and honoring the importance of play. Those two things that we can do, like we can nail those things right out the gate. Talking about having the outside, I'm not saying that, with this bobble, with the, whatever we call it, a pop. Again, we're still going to have our esports teams, just like we're going to have our basketball teams, just like we're going to have our basketball, our football, whatever. It's just we're giving kids more choices and saying these choices are okay.
I think it's slowing down and doing things more thoughtfully is hopefully what we'll end up seeing. Is instead of this rush to implement, we're going to see people slowing down and actually creating more thoughtful programs with more diverse titles being offered, and building those titles or those teams out or those programs out in a more thoughtful way. Because like when you look at esports, we've talked about it many times. It's not just about the athlete. It's not just about the kids that are playing. It's about the kids that are learning, event planning and management, the kids that are learning about PR and marketing, social media management, brand awareness, like coaching. There's so much more beyond just playing the game. That it's not just gameplay. Like if anybody thinks esports is just about gaming, they're no. Like, no.
One of the guys that I work with and who's one of my like partners in crime on pushing this in our school district came up with some really cool ideas around incorporating those unknown titles. And one of the things he pointed out was we started with Rocket League this year because that's the most accessible for the most students and has the crossplay. But he was like, we should do an unknown game at the very beginning of the year. That way nobody has to like practice over the summer or like have their team or like have their groove.
Everyone's coming in.
When schoolyards, everyone's coming in new. And so if you throw an unknown title at the beginning, everybody's in the same boat.
Right.
Which I thought was a really unique way to look at it.
I think there's a lot of ways to throw that in there. Like when I was teaching my gaming program, one of the things that I did is we talked about game analysis, and I would almost always drop them a game they'd never played before that I figured none of them would play before, for that to be the game that we tore apart. And it was really interesting because sometimes they hated what I gave them, and I did that for a reason. And we've talked about that before, like, learning how to critique a game, like critically, but respectfully is an important skill to develop that a lot of people don't have. But I think the thing that I got to kick out the most is that, a week would go by and we'd come back into class and somebody would be like, yeah, I finished that game. They went home, they downloaded it on their device, they went and played it through because they were like, yeah, it's not a game I ever would have played had I just seen it, on my own. But because I tried it out, I realized, oh, this is actually a good title. And a lot of us are like that. We get in our comfort zone and it's like, well, I don't know this game, or it's not a big game. Like sometimes you got to pull kids out of the comfort zone, introduce them to something. And, they actually do like a lot of the stuff that can be offered.
Well, I was going to go somewhere because, in the chat too, I saw Jay Blackman pop up, and Jay is a friend of mine from Purdue. And I've been down to where he works in his school district, Tri-County Schools in Northwest Indiana. Again, middle of nowhere. It's one of those small Indiana, Northwest Indiana towns where access is still going to be an issue, where even right now, I don't know how they're doing school. I don't know what the internet service is like, but you're talking about real rural farm community. And I'm just thinking about, there's a lot of people in chat now talking about, oh, well, outside sources. No, for some towns, especially in the middle of nowhere, the school is the place where you have the best internet connection, where you have the best community access to resources. It is important that even, we have to think about this in a global sense, not just in a local sense to your own community, to your own area, because that's, again, the beauty of this is making this whatever you can make it work for your community. It doesn't have to follow a model. It doesn't have to be one way and that's it. I think that's one of the nice things that we've seen with NASEF growing up is that they realize very quickly that libraries, and again, Tristan Wheeler, again, perfect example, libraries have a definite part to play in all this. As we talk about the esports EDU community and meeting kids where they are and giving kids opportunities and options and access to play. And that can't be missed. I salute everybody who's trying to come in with a for-profit solution, but again, this is the esports EDU chat. We are talking about solutions for schools, and we are government entities, but if you think that we're under the control of government, we have rules and regulations and things that we have to follow, sure, but we are just as much in control of our local community resources, making the decisions that we want to make. That's it.
And I think another thing to keep in mind is, like, depending on where you are, that like you were saying, that outside exposure, that outside support just doesn't necessarily exist. I don't live out in the boondocks. I live coastal California. I live in a very wealthy community, and gaming and esports is not supported here. So if it is not offered in your school, it is not something your kids are going to have another place to go do. There's just not a lot. Like when I called and pooled everybody, like all the after school programs, all the youth programs, all the schools, all the private schools, there were like 3 clubs that existed in the entirety of my community. 3. That's it. Nobody else was doing gaming. So it's not just these small rural communities. You could be in a very well-developed, very wealthy place, and the area could just be against gaming or behind. So if it's not provided in the schools, they're not going to get it.
And again, that's sometimes it's the place it starts. It doesn't have to be necessarily the esports, competitive experience. Again, as Tristan talked about in his point, and Chris followed up with, it's that invitation to the game.
Yep.
How are you bringing kids to this? How are you bringing a story I love to tell? It was talking to some of the scholar gamers from Case High School and just casually asking them, would you be interested in teaching senior citizens how to play Overwatch?
Yeah.
And the excitement that lit up on their face on that idea of teaching, people who are over 65 how to play Overwatch. It's like, yes, we want to show off the thing that we love to do, that we are intrinsically motivated to do.
Yeah.
But then again, how do you facilitate that? How do you get people to come in and do it? I mean, do you take them to a old folks home? Do you take them to a senior center?
Yeah, why not? Like,
have
them come and set up the senior center's rec room, and there's so much potential for that.
But again, it's the invitation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where do we have that invitation? How do we get that invitation together? And right now it's a hard thing to do.
It is a hard thing to do.
But, thinking future.
But it's still really important, because not only is the invitation important, because the kids are getting an invitation. Like if your kids got into Fortnite, there was a built-in competitive cycle to Fortnite, where you could be competing multiple days a week to qualify for the next round and such, and you could end up winning a pool of money, for your competitive prowess. There's a lot of different platforms where kids can log in and join competitive leagues or gameplay. Kids are out there doing wagers on their own, which is, using different social media platforms to essentially bet and do 1v1s, and they're getting paid out through Cash App and PayPal, or through just direct transfer of in-game currency. So, the competitive, there's a dinosaur.
Do you have a monster?
Rocket League,
right?
Rocket League.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Rocket League's going on in your house.
The competitive aspect is like something that's there, and if your kid's into competitive gaming, they can be exposed to it. I think what's important for us is we provide a little bit of safety. My kid has been gaming competitively for quite some time now, and there are definitely groups that will reach out and be like, hey, well, we want you to sign a contract for this, or we want you to join this team for that. And there's some predatory nature to it, especially when you have money involved. Kids can be making money coaching. Like there's so much there that it's beneficial for us to be involved. Even just from the point of modeling good behavior and, what's ethical business. What should you be looking out for predatory behavior? Because I can tell you right now, if somebody wants to swoop in and offer a predatory contract to a 14-year-old, parents probably are recently. Oh, yep. It happens, because you got kids that are good,
kids who are good and don't know any better.
Nope.
And so excited to go, oh, look at this Discord I got invited to. And I'm like, really?
Yep.
Why did they invite you? Okay. You changed your Discord tag. You've changed, what are they offering you? Oh, well, let's take a look at this. Oh, you mean to tell me that you didn't note the part where it says, I'm not even a lawyer looking at this, and it says you have to pay all your fees and make all your own flight plans and all your travel to wherever they're competing. So you're going to get $25,000, but you'll probably be out like 50 by the time you do everything that they ask you to do.
I almost feel like we're building a gambling problem. The gambling problem exists within any, it's the wagering. And I think the wagering is Yep. And it's something where I think, as an adult, it's beneficial. We can have those conversations and sit down and talk about, you can't be competitive but not a horrible person. Yeah,
you can be competitive and not
absolutely
a horrible person.
Yeah. And it takes work. A lot of times, like as a parent of a child who's grown up gaming, who's grown up playing competitive titles, who's grown up being a competitive gamer, it's a work in progress. We've had periods of time where we've had to sit down and have conversations about behavior and conduct. But I've always gone through with a philosophy of you learn by doing, and you learn by your failures, and you learn by your missteps. And so he's had those opportunities to make the mistakes. And then we've sat down and been like, okay, is this the human being you want to be? Because, like this behavior.
What is your brand?
Right.
What is your brand?
This is attached to you. Is this who you want to be? Is this how you want to be known? And being able to sit back and, I remember there was one point where something had happened and I popped in. I'm like, hey, remember when you were like 7 and you had that really awesome game with like this dude that worked a 9 to 5, and it was like right before trick-or-treating, and then like my kid was talking about, well, how you should go trick-or-treating, because it's like he was young, but they were like playing, and the guy was doing call outs and he was helping him learn, strategy, and like it was this really great play session, and I was listening to all of it, so I knew the conversation was safe. Like this guy definitely sounded like probably a young father. I remember when you got done playing and you were just so excited because an adult played with you and treated you like a peer. He respected you. He listened to your call outs. You listened to his. Like there was this teamwork, and you loved that because you don't always get it. Like remember that when you run into, the squeaker. Like, because it's easy for kids, I think, to get into a point where they're like, no, well, I'm bigger and I'm better. I'm like, don't be that dude. Be the other dude. Be the dude that played with the 7-year-old and was a teammate. Like
it's hard. I get it. It is. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I have scars from idiots who step onto the rugby pitch for the first time. Like this scar right over my left eye here is from a first night rookie showed up and like
didn't cut his nails first.
No, dove for a ball and hit me with the crown of his head right above my eye.
Yeah.
Pop. And it was like,
yeah, John, I don't know where they are either. Sorry, keep
going.
Just
things that you don't, and it's hard to remember. Just as Tristan's killing it tonight on comments as well. That whole thing about where was it? I need to go back up a little bit. Hold on, just bear with me a second. Sadly, I love my gaming community. I have to admit, we are pretty terrible with the invitation. We are. Again, because there is competitive. It is, and again, the Lord of the Flies experience that a lot of our kids have when they get tossed into the general. Your son was lucky, Carrie. He got tossed into it sounds like just a gaming sesh, but with random people, but found somebody who was helpful and just like and they clicked. That feels more like the exception than the rule. Well, I don't know. You've done a lot more Sea of Thieves, play and
no. So I feel like it's 50-50. And like, I think for me raising him, because like really early on, it was very clear that this was his passion. And so it was like, okay, you're going to do this, but we're going to set certain ground rules. And one of the big ground rules for quite a long time was open comms. I had to be able to hear everything. And it allowed me to know which interactions weren't healthy. We had conversations. We could start having conversations about identifying predatory behavior before it gets out of control, because it happens. And we definitely ran into it. And so we would stop and talk, and he, he learned, and he knew I was always listening. So it's not like anything could be covered up. Like it was all there. And by the time I let him, switch over to a headset, like we'd gone through all that. We'd laid the foundation. He knew, and you're just at that point hoping they follow through with everything that they've been practicing for years. but it was hit or miss. Like, but I would say at least 50% of the time people were cool. Like if you're a kid and you're not being a dick, then generally the people around you are going to be accepting of you being young. But there's a difference, because there is the kid that just loves the game and is good, and then there's the kid that's,
immature and annoying.
Not just even that, but immature, annoying, and disrespectful. No, what they're mirroring of the culture is the negative sides of the culture. They're mirroring, like, you'll get the kids that come in and they mirror the really aggro streamers, and so
as we hear Danielle's child screaming in the background playing Rocket League.
Well, I actually have a story to go along with this, because we're currently living some of this right now. He just got his PC back over Thanksgiving break. He was game and YouTube restricted for 2 weeks because he broke his monitor in anger.
Yep.
And I mean, a lot of things are going on. Like, he has handled COVID and staying home like a trooper until the last 2 months.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was school starting and him doing school online. Now he's back in the class, physical. So we're doing a little bit better. But yeah, I know, right? So taking a look at the YouTubers he watches, and they're not even the super aggro. They're people that I would consider kind of annoying, but just repeating some of the things they say, like, oh my gosh, I'm the unluckiest person on the planet. Or, oh my gosh, life is so unfair to me. And I'm like, you are a a white male who YouTubes for a living. Nothing is unfair for you. So
well, at least he's not going to any malls or anything like that, during a riot or anything.
I know. But had to nix a couple YouTube channels, not because they were doing anything unethical or immoral. They were just thoughts I didn't want in my son's head.
Right. Setting a standard.
Yeah, because he was just repeating those things. And
oh yeah.
That's the language he was hearing when someone was frustrated, was that language, instead of identifying the emotion and stating what's going on. He was aware of those.
Yeah. And you do find a lot of streamers are, that instant rage reaction is really popular. So it's like when did Angelique said somebody broke a monitor. There's dudes that go through keyboards, like a keyboard to stream. Like, that's their thing. Something happens.
The guitarist that bashed their stuff on stage. What's the point of that?
But I remember having third graders that the parents would come in, they're we're having some behavior issues. I'm like, yeah, I can tell. They're like, yeah, we don't know what's going on. And
we've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas.
Right. And I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about what do they do? What are they going in? And they're like, oh, well, they come home, they do their homework, and then they watch YouTube. I'm like, okay, well, who are they watching? And at that period of time, I kept hearing PewDiePie. And I'm like, you're letting your third grader watch PewDiePie? They're like, well, yeah, I mean, it's PewDiePie. I'm like, yeah. You need to watch his content, because if your kid's popping off with some anti-LGBTQ language, if there's certain other swear words that are being used around the house, there's certain derogatory language, I can tell you right now that's coming from that stream. That stream uses a lot of these terms. This individual does not filter, especially at that point in time. I'm like, and your kid probably has no clue what they're saying. But they're saying it because they're hearing it and everybody's laughing at it and they think it's funny. They don't get it. When your kids pop off with stuff, my kid once came out with something. I'm like, dude, do you know what that means? And he's like, no, I don't. I just know that everybody says it. I'm like, okay, well, let me explain that to you. He's like, I'm never saying that again. I'm like, yeah. Probably don't utter words you don't understand.
If anybody needs some suggestions, I would recommend, a heavy dose for your kids of Keemstar and Dr. Disrespect.
Excellent choices.
Right?
Watch what they watch. If you were a parent and you know your kid is really obsessed with a streamer or a YouTuber, just go and pick one of their VODs one day and watch the damn thing. You need to know. you don't have to watch it every day, but you need to periodically pop in and be like, what is this person doing and what do they stand for? Like they literally live on the internet. Not too hard to find them.
Hey, YouTube, if you are watching, which you probably aren't, but you should be, I would really like that same EDU feature as a parent where I can say approve or restrict on YouTube videos. So like if I could say like this channel's off limits, but these are okay. And like my son could request to subscribe to channels just like you do for apps. I think that would be phenomenal.
I have to also give much props to John Sarmi in here. He started up a gaming lounge in Jacksonville, and I think John opened it right at the start of COVID. But he's been really doing a lot of outreach to schools, inviting in leaders, superintendents, principals, kids in as they could, and I just want to make sure that
it's awesome.
He gets proper notification here because again, he's a community member who is trying to bridge the gaps in the community around Jacksonville. But back to the streaming aspect,
everybody requests that feature. Okay,
our parents used to do this. Our parents used to have the ability to block a channel. Remember, cable boxes you had to put in a code, and most of us knew it. But the act of putting in the code, the act of blocking the channel, the act of having ability to put parental controls on certain things to make sure that it didn't just happen. Because again, with YouTube, you can go down that rabbit hole real easily. The suggested videos, boom,
boom.
The autoplay, and it's just
well, the ads alone. But I think that the thing I think that we need to stop and remind ourselves as parents is like most of us grew up in an era where there was like a TV. And it didn't have headphones. So if you were watching something, your parents could hear. Like they knew what you were watching. And no, you can't watch these movies. No, you can't watch those shows. Like I
could also pick up the phone and listen to your conversation.
Right, exactly. And so now we're handing children content and we're not watching it and we're not listening to it and we're not seeing where they're clicking when it's over. It's a huge shirking of parental responsibility. Like it is on you, especially if you're letting your kid into that environment. You need to be aware of what's out there, and you need to be teaching them good skills to navigate it because like it's how the world exists right now. But there's a lot of negative examples. I mean, even like I have some time off this week. But I try to watch various streamers throughout the week while they work. And I flipped through this week. I've been flipping through a pile of people that I've never watched before. And even just watching the personas that people don as streamers and the routines that happen and the little behaviors that are triggered. Like you see kids like pantomiming these things in real life because this is what they watch on Twitch. And if you aren't also watching, you're not necessarily aware of where these behaviors are coming from.
Miss Angelique brought up Ren and Stimpy, and I just say that I loved watching it. But again, I started watching it when I never liked Ren and 14. Stimpy. There were parts of the cartoon that made me uncomfortable. Oh, I would watch it like, cool. But yeah, I watched a lot of it. Yeah, she's right. Yeah, if I showed that to my kids now, first of all, they probably roll their eyes and go, "This is lame." But second of all, they would also probably go like, "You got to watch this as a kid," But even in my own home, I have kids who I trust. It's they're 17, 14, and 12. We worked really hard on the rules. Me and my ex-wife we're in concert with all these things. We have discussions about things that are okay and appropriate to watch and what's not. And if anything's questionable, we just call it out and it's taken care of. But I still, even at 11 o'clock at night, the data on their phones gets shut off because I told the router, hey, I want to make sure that these kids go to, and is it shut off all night? No, it's just
long enough for them to go to bed,
long enough for them to fall asleep. That way, if they do have to wake up in the middle of the night and there's an emergency or something, they can do it. Okay.
I didn't we definitely was firm with that for my kid for a while, but then middle of middle school, I'm like, no, you've got to figure this out. And he learned. I think there was 2 or 3 nights. I'm like, okay, I'm not policing this anymore. You need to be all tech needs to be shut off. If it's still on by like 1, I'm going to be on you. Like, this isn't okay. But I'm not going to say 10 o'clock, not going to come in and police you. We're just going to do it. And I remember like he got the freedom, and for like 3 days, it was like this glorious world opened up for him. I think on like day 4, he woke up and he's like, I am never, ever, like, no, like, it's not worth the exhaustion and the fatigue. I'm like, yeah, this is where being responsible comes in. Like, there are days you can stay up and there's days where you shouldn't. And if you're getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning, because I'm not going to let you have another 10 minutes, then that's not a night you should be staying up. And like, since then, he's been really good, but I had to let him hit that wall kind of on his own. And he learned, he's like, yeah, no, that's not. And periodically he'll still do it. Like, he'll get on. We had one a couple weeks ago where they had just set up their world in Rust, and they were getting ready to log off at like 10.
I gotta play that game. Ooh.
Oh, it's a great game. They're getting ready to log off, and this other group logged in, and they're like, we can't leave. So they like took turns to try and save their base. And he got up the next morning. He's like, that game's going to kill me. Like, I can't. I got to set ground rules. No, he knew his limit, but he pushed past it. He's like, yeah, I can't. I'm like, yeah, no, you're too old, dude. You're too old for that now. You can't stay up past 11 o'clock. You're an old man.
Well, we only, first of all, I see Reverend has made an appearance. So,
yay!
Bradford did pop up for a second. Hi, Bradford. Good to see you. I wanted to we only have a couple minutes left. Being thankful for certain things. I was wondering if anybody had, because again, we weren't going to talk about any deep topic tonight. And what did we do for the last 50 minutes?
But yeah, we did follow through with that.
We did not follow through with that at all. So, anything anybody wants to share tonight about their Thanksgiving experience or anything that you wish to bring to the table? Nothing? Anything?
Today was just another day. It wasn't really a Thanksgiving
That's right,
experience.
because you're not really doing much other than you have your little space heater on in California, in Southern California, which is adorable, by the way.
Thank you.
Look at that thing, Danielle. Look at that thing. She lives in Santa Barbara, and she has a little space
I'm right
heater.
there with you.
It was 49 degrees this morning.
Heaters on the porch.
I do not have central heating in my house that runs.
Just top button. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
No.
Why would you wouldn't have HVAC?
62. No, it was 62 in the house this morning.
Tristan knows what's up. Tristan knows what's up. He knows the fan also behind because it blows that hot air around. Yep.
Well, and because living in Santa Barbara, you never know whether you're going to have a 60-degree day all day or a 90-degree day the next day.
And fires.
Yeah. It's roulette. You never know. I am thankful that nothing burned today.
I do have something I'm thankful for, and I'm jumping on Angelique in the chat. I met everybody in this group this year.
Oh, yeah.
So F 2020, but I love y'all.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Let's see. Wait.
I met everybody in TechSF other than Greg this year.
Let's talk.
And Bradford, I still haven't met you. In real life.
Let's bring that up too. There's a lot of good people who have contributed to this show this year. If you have not, do go on the link tree there for linktree/esportsedu and make sure you click through the little profiles there. Because again, everybody there, though some of them are better than others about cleaning up their LinkedIn profiles, but we all have one. So if you want to learn more about the people who are doing it, please do that and connect with us because we're all just normal people. We just
That might be a little weird.
That's the beauty of Twitch is that anybody can make a channel and have their voice heard,
like Danielle has, and bring in the ladies
next Wednesday.
You're bringing the ladies.
And it was really Kim. I just want to be very clear.
It was fun.
I clicked go live. That was my job.
Leave my LinkedIn alone.
Yeah, Angelique, you need to. I want to share just a quick little thing that I'm thankful for is that COVID has allowed me to get my bread baking skills down. And this is
on point.
My bread. And I don't know if you can hear the noise.
No. Well,
it's also very quiet. So yes, you can. But what's cool about this, and unfortunately the video, I don't think has the quality here, but what you hear, because I'm talking through the whole thing, is the bread is cooling and it's cracking. And I'll post the video up to Twitter, but you can actually watch the cracks form in the bread crust. It's
that's awesome.
It's awesome. I was so excited about that. So that's my little.
I think for me, this is my first. I'm completing my first year. Like,
and Angelique's getting some Eastern African coffee, so she's going to be up all night. She's going to be like getting on here and be like, "Come on, let's do another show."
She's like,
"Come on,
we're playing a game.
Turian coffee, let's do this." All right, sorry, go ahead, Carrie.
This is like my first full year out of education, and I've like been really healthy this year. Like, granted, I'm not healthy. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm a train wreck, but I am way less. There's far fewer explosions than there normally are. No, it's been really nice, like working remotely, working with people that I like, working in an industry, like for a company that's really cool and doing great things. Like it's been nice not having my autoimmune disorder fighting what I do for a living, like every single day of my life, but being able to like actually have everything sort of be in the state of, I don't want to be as like fluffy as saying harmony, but coexistence. I've enjoyed it.
Homeostatic balance.
Yeah, I've never experienced this before, and I've like, as much as 2020 has been a giant mothball plopped in the mouth, some things have been really nice.
That's what I hadn't heard yet.
Well, and I have to say too that this is passing. The good news is that we've got vaccines on the horizon.
Yeah.
We've gotten a heck of a lot better because we're not out of the woods yet. I can tell you right around where I live, the hospitals are packed.
No, and I think the next couple of weeks are going to be interesting depending on how many people are eating in large groups tonight.
But come next summer, spring and summer, there will be an opportunity for all of us to get together. And I don't know where that's going to be. I don't know when.
ISTE in San Antonio.
I would love to go to ISTE in San Antonio. I love San Antonio.
We're getting an esports EDU house. Like,
I've never been to San Antonio.
An esports
fly
EDU
into Dallas.
house.
You can drive down with me.
Yay!
I love the idea of an esports EDU house in San Antonio.
Oh yeah.
Even if you don't go to,
because we're all going to be there anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. But here's the thing: don't pay to go to ISTE. We just go to the car and we invite people back to the house and we interview them. And then we send them back to the conference. Oh, this is an awesome idea. I love this idea. All right.
Well, I'm super excited because we can't use title funds out of state, but since ISTE is in state this year, I get to. I mean, my school district's always paid for it, but this year it's like going to be a little bit less complicated.
Yeah.
Nice.
No, that'd be cool.
Well, it is 7:27. We're not even over. Right, we got even just and it's just Danielle. It just looks like you got some ridiculousness going on there. I mean, it's been a nice to hear all this screaming.
I mean, I think he's playing his dad.
No, he's cursing out some random other child or 20-something who's just trying out Rocket League.
Sometimes
for the first
he's
time.
not even on like comms with anybody. He just is very expressive when he is playing.
I was playing Hades a little bit today, and oh my god. You've gotten into that, haven't you?
Oh my god. Okay, so this is like being open-minded about games. I never, ever would have decided to play it if you hadn't hyped it so much, and I love it. And
Hades is
now
awesome.
I'm like exploring the whole genre a little bit more.
Dungeon crawlers, like Minecraft dungeons, Diablo.
And the whole like run-based thing, like I had no idea what the game was except for the plot.
Carrie, it's all speed running. That's all that it is.
That's all it is.
It's literally a game of.
It's Groundhog's Day in a game.
Yeah,
with amazing dialogue. Yeah,
and
it's got a good story. I still have not escaped. I got all the way to Hades earlier today.
You're not supposed to tell people
run 180, but
How many runs have you made?
I think like 50.
Oh, okay. I was going to say like 180 and you haven't still gotten out of
I am not good at video games. So my stepdaughter and her boyfriend were over last night and we were playing Crazy Chicken Horse. If nobody's played that, it's a good group game.
Okay.
I'm looking this up right now.
You're just going from one platform to another, but every round you get to put obstacles or helpers in the way.
Okay.
And it's kind of funny, but like I can't even get from one platform to the other.
I tried to doing it like Stardew Valley today and failed miserably.
I tried
that game. Yeah, everybody seems to love it. I'm like,
I'm having fun as long as I don't have to fish.
I don't know.
I mean, eventually I'll figure it out. I wanted to play Abduction, but it gave me a major case of the spinning brain, so it's going to be a Dramamine taker for me. Yeah.
Looking up Ultimate Chicken Horse. Is that the game I want? Ultimate Chicken Horse?
Yeah.
Ultimate Chicken Horse. Okay. All right. It is currently $8 on Steam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But okay, so we have it on the Switch because it's definitely a multiplayer game, and so you can play up to 4 people.
Is it cross?
So with 4 controllers, huh?
Is it cross-platform?
No, it's like an in-person game.
Oh, it is.
It's like screen share, okay, or console share.
Please no, primarily multiplayer games. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll look into it. See, it says online and local play for up to 4 players.
Yeah. So you could probably.
I have never played online. PC.
It just might not be cross-plat.
Well, I'm going to download it and find out.
Yeah, we play on the Switch whenever.
Get your angry ultimate chicken horse on.
I am getting my ultimate chicken horse on. Oh, I need my authenticator. All right. Hey. Oh, dang it. We're a minute over.
Uh-oh.
All right. Well, this was the
bell doesn't dismiss you. I dismiss you.
Show me what you man.
I missed wrong button. That was the best teacher line ever tossed out in the show ever. That is the ultimate teacher line right there. That was
Jerry, you're cracking me up.
And here's the thing. Tristan's like flashbacks. No, Tristan. This shit is real today. Teachers still say this crazy crap. We all do it. So,
my cheeks hurt.
Good.
All right. This was the Thanksgiving show. I think we did final thoughts, right?
We did. We're good.
All right. That'll do it. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. Class is now dismissed. Good night, everybody.